Shabbat Shalom, everyone. This is Rabbi Kliel, and we are coming to you with a pre-recorded Shabbat morning service. We are pre-recording on Friday, November 20th for the Shabbat morning service, November 21st. And I'm here with Cantor Tracy, and we have our wonderful technician, Avram Shirak. We're going to begin the service. If you'd like to stand or sit, you can do either. We'll start on page 65, Birkot HaShachar. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natanu zechut bina lachvim ben yom uben layla. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shesani b'tzamo. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shesani Yisrael. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shesani ben chorim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam pokeach ivrim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam malbish arumim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam matir asurim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam zokef ketuvim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam rakal haaretz alamayim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shesali kol tzarki. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamechin mitzadei gaber. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam ozer Yisrael b'gvura. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam ozer Yisrael b'tifara. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam anotein layev kova. U'teneinu hayam u'b'chol yom l'cheinu l'chesed rachamim einecha. V'nei kohen v'tigmelei chasadim tovim. Baruch atah Adonai gomel chasadim tovim la'amo Yisrael. We're going to change things up a little bit and turn to the Psalm for Shabbat on page 72. Hayom yom Shabbat kodesh shebo hayu haLevim omrim bebeit hamikdash mizmor shel yom haShabbat. Od yinu seva deshenim v'rananim yiyu lagi ki yasher Adonai tzuri v'lo lahatavo. We'll turn now to the beginning of Pezukei D'Zimra. It starts on page 83. Baruch she'amar v'haya olam baruch hu. Baruch Hashem. Yachid chei olami melech meshubach u'mforad ad shemo gadol. Baruch atah Adonai melech melav v'tishpacho. Let's continue with the Ashrei on page 96. Ashrei sheveitecha od yalalu chasela. Tehilat Adonai dever pivi varech masar shempo shel olam va'ed. Anachnu nevarech ya. Hallelujah. We turn to the second paragraph on page 100. Hallelujah, hallelujah, b'kodsho, hallelujah, b'rkioso, hallelujah, b'kvurotav, hallelujah, kirav kulo, hallelujah, b'tekaf shofar, hallelujah, b'nevel v'chinor, hallelujah, b'tofu machol, hallelujah, b'minim v'ogav, hallelujah, b'tziltzilei shema, hallelujah, b'tziltzilei trua, kol haneshama tehallelujah, hallelujah. Kol haneshama tehallelujah, hallelujah. Page 104. Nishmat kol chai tevarech et shimcha Adonai Eloheinu. We're on page 105 at the first box. Nehalelcha u'tshabechacha u'nfarechacha u'nvarech et shem kodshecha kamor leDavid barchi nafshi et Adonai b'chol kavai et shem kodsho hayel b'tatumot uzecha hagadol b'chvod shemecha hagibor lenetzach b'anorav b'norotecha hamelech hayoshev al kisei ram v'nisa.
Shochen ad marom v'kadosh shemo befi sharim titalal uvdivrei tzadikim titbarach ובלשון חסידים תתרומם, ובקרב קדושים תתקדש. טוב מקלות רבבות עמך בית ישראל. שכן חובת כל יצורים לפניך, אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו, להודות, להלל, לשבח, לבאר, לרומם, להדר, לברך, להלל ולקלס, על כל דברי שירות ותשבחות, דוד בן ישי עבדך משיחך, ישתבח שמך לעד מלכנו. ברכות והודעות מעתה ועד עולם. ברוך אתה אדוני אל מלך גדול ותשבחות, אל ההודעות אדוני נפלאות. הבוחר בשירי זמרה, מלך חלקי עולמים.
Continue with the opening blessing, the blessings before the recitation of the Shema, which start on page 107.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, yotzer or uvorech choshech, oseh shalom uvorech et hakol. Hakol yoducha v'hakol yishabechucha. Ein ke'erkecha Adonai Eloheinu ba'olam hazeh, ve'en zulatecha malkeinu lechaye ha'olam haba. Efes biltecha go'aleinu limot HaMashiach, ve'en dome lecha moshienu litchiyat hametim.
Cantor Tracy, how do you feel about, instead of singing Elodon today, why don't we just recite it to ourselves, and then this way we will gain a longing for it, and in a couple of weeks we'll return back to it. Does that work?
I long for Eladon all the time. I don't know what gave you a different impression. Should I start us with the first line?
Sure,
So
that sounds
continue
great.
Silent.
Yeah.
Eladon al kol masim baruch u'mvorach b'fi kol neshama.
We'll continue on page 109.
Lael asher shavat mikol ha'maasim. Baruch Hashevi bayom hashvi'i hayita alav vayashav al kitzei chevodo. וכולם פותחים מפיהם בקדושה וטהרה, בשירה וזמרה, ומברכים ומשבחים, ומפארים ומעריצים, ומקדישים וממליכים את שם האל המלך הגדול, הגיבור והנורא הקדוש הוא. להקדיש להיות רם בנחת רוח, בשפה ברורה ונימה קדושה, כולם כאחד עונים ואומרים ביראה, קדוש 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 אדוני צבאות מלוך כל הארץ כבודו. ואופנים וחיות הקודש ברעש גדול מתנסים לעומת רפים, לעומתם משבחים ואומרים ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו. אור חדש על ציון תאיר, ונזכה כולנו מהרה לאורו. ברוך אתה אדוני, יוצר המאורות.
We're on 111, and a reminder that as we finish off this particular bracha, this blessing, we gather our tzitzit so that we have them when we recite the third paragraph of the Shema.
וקרבתנו לשמך הגדול סלע באמת, להודות לך ליחדך באהבה. ברוך אתה אדוני, הבוחר בעמו ישראל באהבה. שמע ישראל אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך, ושיננת לבניך ודיברת בם, ושבתך בביתך ולכתך בדרך, ושכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך והיה. אם שמעו עד ישמעו את מצוותיי. אדוני אלוהיכם
Amen.
ויציב ונכון וקיים וישר ונאמן ואהוב וחביב ונחמד ונעים ונורא ועדין. לדור ודור הוא קיים ושמו קיים, וכיסו נכון ומלכותו, ואמונת עולד קיימת. גואלנו, גואל אבותינו, יוצרנו צור ישועתנו, הודינו מצילנו מעולם שמך, אין אלוהים זולתך, עזרת אבותינו אתה הוא מעולם.
We're on 114.
תהילות לעליון ברוך וברך, משה ובני ישראל, לכנו שירה בשמחה רבה, ואמרו כולם מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש, נורא תהילות אוסף אלה. שירה חדשה שיבחו גאולים, לשמך שפתיים, יחד כולם הודו, והמליכו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. צור ישראל, קומה בעזרת ישראל, ופדי קדמך, מיהודה וישראל. גואלנו אדוני צבאות שמו, קדוש ישראל ברוך. אתה אדוני Israel.
Amen. So if you are so inclined, you may continue with the silent Amidah for the Shachrit service. If you're not as inclined to go in that direction, you can join with me as I give some brief commentary on this week's Haftorah reading before Cantor Tracy chants it. The Haftorah reading can be found on page 163 in the Etz Chayim Chumash. And as is the case with the book of Genesis, we keep seeing this pattern of rivalry between brothers. We see it between Cain and Abel, and now we see it in Parshat Toldot, this week's Torah reading, between Jacob and Esau. And the truth of the matter is that when we read these stories of rivalry, it becomes a little bit more tolerable because we know what to expect. We expect reconciliation afterward. And it's a little bit surprising in this week's Haftorah reading, rather, that in Malachi, the very last of the 12 minor prophets, which is written in the Second Temple period after the Babylonian exile, the story of brothers ends with hatred, not fraternity. And Malachi opens with the following verses: I loved you, said God, and you said, how have you loved us? Was not Esau the brother of Jacob, says God, and I loved Jacob and I hated Esau. So here we are at the very end of the history recorded in the Bible, and God is clarifying that the nice tales of love from Genesis did not win in the end. We end on a note of hatred, a call for revenge. But the story in the Haftorah is a little bit more complicated. God is not just retelling our story from Genesis with an alternative reading. Esau has come to represent Edom, the nation that descends from him, our brother nation. And just as is the case in all sibling relationships, the Israelite relationship with Edom is fraught. And ultimately we blame Edom for gloating over and helping in the destruction of the first temple. And we sense that they have betrayed us. Moreover, there's the ultimate reassurance to know that God hates them, that if God is playing favorites, we are still God's favorite, even if we are not currently doing so well. God proves God's love for us by holding up God's hatred of Edom. So love here is defined and clarified by hate. And we see this pattern elsewhere in the Torah. Back in Genesis, Jacob, the love child, will repeat this pattern with his wives, loving Rachel and hating Leah. Must lives always be defined by hate? Is a worthwhile question. Does the existence of love necessitate the existence of hate? And Malachi seems to suggest that this is indeed the case. The Genesis narratives, Bereshit narratives of sibling rivalry confirm it. However, the Genesis narratives also suggest that hate is not permanent, but rather a temporary phase we go through. So having experienced hatred, we grow into a position to experience love and to give forth love. And in the book of Malachi, we see we are scared people coming back into our land and back into power after years of subjugation and exile. And at this moment, we could only understand love as the opposite of hate. So I want to pray for all of us to let us hope that at this time, as time went on, we leave behind hatred as an experience of our past, using our memory of it to fuel a brotherly love for the present. With that, a reminder that the Haftorah can be found on page 163. Cantor Tracy is just going to offer a brief reading of this, the first 10 lines or whatever she decides, but it's going to be a little bit more abbreviated.
Masa devar Adonai el Yisrael b'yad melachi. Ahavti etchem amar Adonai ve'amartem bama ahavtanu. Halo ach esav li'akov ne'um Adonai ואוהב את יעקב, ואת עשיו שנאתי, ואשים את הרב שממה, ואת נחלתו לתנות מדבר. כי תאמר אדום, וששנו, ונשוב ונבנה חרבות, כה אמר אדוני צבאות, המה יבנו ואני ארום, וקראו להם גבור אישה, והעם אשר זם אדוני עד עולם, ועיניכם תראינה, ואתם תאמרו יגאל אדוני מעל ליבו ישראל, והן יכבד אב ועבד אדוני, ואם אב אני אהיה כבודי, ואם אדונים אני אהיה מוראי, אמר אדוני צבאות, לכם הכהנים עוזי שמי, ואמרתם נבזינו את שמך, מגישים על מזבחי לחם לגואל, ואמרתם במה גאלנוכה, במרכם שולחן אדוני נבזהו, וכי תגישון עיוור לזבוח אין רע, וכי תגישו פיסח וחולה אין רע, הקריבהו נא לפחתך, היוצאך או היסף ענך, אמר אדוני צבאות, ואתה עלו נא פני אל ויחננו מידכם העת הזאת, הישא מכם פנים, אמר אדוני צבאות, מי גם בכם ויזכור דלתיים, ולא תאירו מזבחי חינם, אין לי חפץ בכם, אמר אדוני צבאות, ומנחה לא ארצה מידכם.
Yashar kochech. Thank you. Well done. We are going to continue with the prayer for our country. How about we switch it up and I do the English and you'll do the Hebrew?
Sure.
Okay. So this way you get to breathe. We turn to 148, the bottom of the page, a prayer for our country. Our God and God of our ancestors, we ask your blessings for our country, for its government, for its leaders and advisors, and for all who exercise just and rightful authority. Teach them insights from your Torah, that they may administer all affairs of state fairly, that peace and security, happiness and prosperity, justice and freedom may forever abide in our midst. Creator of all flesh, bless all the inhabitants of our country with your spirit. May citizens of all races and creeds forge a common bond in true harmony, to banish hatred and bigotry, and to safeguard the ideals and free institutions that are the pride and glory of our country. May this land under your providence be an influence for good throughout the world, uniting all people in peace and freedom, helping them to fulfill the vision of your prophet. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they experience war anymore. Let us say, Amen. We turn to the top of 149, a prayer for the state of Israel.
אבינו שבשמיים, צור ישראל וגואלו, ברך את מדינת ישראל, ראשית צמיחת גאולתנו, הגן עליה בעברת חסדך, ופרוס עליה סוכת שלומך, ושלח אורך ועמיתך לראשיה, שריה ויועציה ותקנם בעצה טובה מלפניך. חזק את ידי מגיני ארץ קודשנו, והנחילם אלוהינו ישוע, ועטרת ניצחון תעטרם. ונתת שלום בארץ, ושמחת עולם ליושביה, ונאמר אמן.
Amen. We're going to continue now with the prayer for healing. Cantor Tracy, I have the list in front of me, and I've taken off the people who no longer need to remain on it. And so that's a good reminder to everyone. Please, if you do have a name that you would like on our list and like us to recite their names, we would be honored to do so. It would just be important that you get the name into Marina on Thursday at the latest. So we'll be able to do that. And you can just keep somebody's name on for a limited time. And if they seem to be doing better, then we take them off the list once we hear back from you. So the prayer for healing is on page 144. And then we'll close with Elna, followed by Etz Chayim.
מי שברך אבותינו אברהם יצחק ויעקב שרה רבקה רחל ולאה הוא יברך וירפא.
Chaya bat Yitzchak b'Bela, Levan Balbus, Chaya bat Miriam the Kalman, Bela bat Binyamin v'Rezel, Shmuel ben Perel, Kolkan Salas, Rachel Bayetel, Baruch ben Yitzchak, Chava Ariel bat Chaya, Yosef ben Chana, Chana Michal bat Eliyahu v'Malka Zissa, Ben Ami ben Penina, Shoshana bat Shulomit b'Avraham, Elka Chaya bat Penina, Harav Avraham Yoshua Heschel ben Chaya Rezel, Esther Gottfried, and Bracha bat Simcha Behoda.
ואת כל החולים בקהילה הקדושה הזאת, הקדוש ברוך הוא ימלא רחמים עליהם להחזיקם ולרפאותם וישלח להם מהר רפואה שלמה מן השמיים, רפואת הנפש ורפואת הגוף בתוך שאר חולי ישראל. שבת היא מלזעוק רפואה קרוב לבוא. השתבח עליו בזמן קריב ונאמר אמן.
Amen. Elna refana la, Elna refana la, Elna refana la, refuah shelema. Let's continue with Etz Chayim, the bottom of 154 in Cantor Tracy. One day I'll figure out how to get the right key or start with it. So I'll let you.
Etz Chayim hi lama chazikim ba etomchecha meushar darachea דרכי נועם וכל נתיבותיה שלום.
Thank you. I just want to make mention of the fact that every time we say the prayer for healing, and I try to do this on a daily basis on behalf of those people in our congregation and those people in our community, and when I say community, I don't mean that just limited to Winnipeg. We will put anybody's name on. They don't have to be Jewish necessarily. So please feel free to offer anybody's name that you have in mind who could use the healing. But I wanted to mention, of course, and I think I speak for Cantor Tracy, every time we say that prayer, we also have those first line workers who are dealing with this horrible pandemic. And I can't believe we're still talking about it almost 8 months later. And in some ways it feels even more gruesome than it was when we first started the social distancing. But let's just remember all of those people and the people struggling with the virus directly. So we have them in mind, but I just wanted to ensure you that we always are thinking about those folks too. Let's turn now to conclude the service. We're going to end with the Mourner's Kaddish, which can be found on 184. And before we recite the Kaddish, I just want to mention all of those people whose yortzites are being commemorated on November 21st, which corresponds to the 5th day of Kislev. We lovingly remember David Abraham Kalnitsky, Max Cohen, Norman Crystal, Lillian Frankel, Belle Kleiman, Ronnie Krautz, Ernest Labovich, Sam Leckie, Sosha Leah Lichtman, Molly Lyman, Menashe Mendel, Morris Richmond, Malka Tabak, Gatel Weiner, Joseph Yeager, and Ezekiel Sabensky. All those who are in mourning of yortzeit or whose custom it is to rise and recite the Mourner's Kaddish can join with me. Again, it is on page 184. Yikadal, Yikadash, Shemei Rabbah, Ve'almad, Yivrach, Yeruteh, Ve'amlich Malchuteh, Ve'chayechon, Ve'amechon, V'chayei Dechol Beit Yisrael, V'agala, V'zman, Kari, V'yimaru, Amen. Yehi Shmei Rabbah, Mevorach, V'olam, Umei Almaya. Yiparach, V'yishtabach, V'yitpa'ar, V'yitromam, V'yitnaseh, V'yitadar, V'yitaleh, V'yitalal, Shemei Dekudesha, V'yichu. Le'ila Minkol Birchata V'Shirata Tushbechata V'Nechemata Damiran Delma Yimaru Amen. Yehi Shlama Rabba Min Shemaya L'chaim Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael Yimaru Amen. Aseh Shalom B'Ramav Hu Yaseh Shalom Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael Yimaru Amen.
Amen.
Before we conclude, I just want to thank Cantor Tracy. I, of course, want to thank Avram Shirak for being with us and his continued support with all things technical. I don't know how we would do without you, Avram, so it is so appreciated. And finally, we just want to thank everybody who joins us each Shabbat or periodically whenever you feel like you can. That's the beauty of this. You can access the service whenever you like, of course, after 10 o'clock on Shabbat mornings. And we hope you'll stay involved and join us for many, many other events that are taking place online. A reminder that the Beit Chaim sessions are currently taking place. I'll ask Cantor Tracy. Ours is going really wonderful. I hear great things about your class.
Yeah, it's fun. It's so much fun. It's really nice. I'd love to be in person, but here we are.
Yeah. Sort of like you're in person, you know. Not really. We are way apart, miles apart. Okay. God, I don't want to mislead anybody, Tracy. But also a reminder that Hanukkah is coming up very soon, and we have some really terrific programming. We are trying, I'm going to use that ubiquitous word that's used all the time. We are pivoting, and we are the champions of pivoting. So that's a really a way to mention that we're having all these events for Hanukkah, and we hope that you'll join us. Take care. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.